Hello and welcome to today's Blitz webinar. Quick housekeeping tip. Anybody who's in the webinar who's having trouble with the visuals, try opening your meeting link in a Firefox or Google Chrome browser, as those tend to like the screen share a little better. If you signed up because you're looking for a Blitz training, use the link here in chat. I'm copying and pasting now. There we go. Use the link here in chat to access our training video content on the Blitz Help Desk. We've got some day-to-day training and some administrative setup stuff that I've linked directly there. I'm going to repeat my support recommendation again. If you're having trouble with the video feed here today, try opening your meeting link in a Firefox or Google Chrome browser, as those tend to like the screen share a little better. If you're new to Blitz, it's a web-based sales follow-up and CRM platform you can use to manage leads, improve sales tracking, build better relationships with customers, manage your hiring process, and automate any of those processes I just listed. If you want to look deeper into the platform itself, you're invited to check us out at nowblitz.com. This webinar is set as a presentation, so while you can hear me, everyone else on the call is muted. So if you have questions while we go through the content, feel free to type them into the question section on the GoToWebinar window. I see one of you has already found that. Hi, David. And I will address those either during the presentation or at the end, just depending on how the flow is going there. My name is Alex Eding, and I am the video and webinar coordinator for AA Solutions. I build and narrate most of our video content, so if you've seen any of those, that's why you recognize my voice, as well as these webinars. Today's presentation is titled New Year, New Automation, which means we're taking a look at the concept of automation with the intent to introduce some ideas on how automation is viewed in the sales world and how you can use it to build your business. The goal of this webinar is to share about workflow and give you an idea of where to get started. So let's talk about an accepted definition of workflow in the world, and then we'll talk more about how workflow automation takes key elements and makes some adjustments. Merriam-Webster defines workflow as the sequence of steps involved in moving from the beginning to the end of a working process. Today, we're really interested in that sequence of steps. What are the steps involved in following up with a lead or contact? Are there different steps when reaching out to them? Are there different choices we make when calling one or the other as far as frequency, message, mindset? Let's talk about some manual workflow tasks. Emails, requotes, follow-up scheduling, chasing people down. When you work without automation, these steps are time-consuming. Think about how long it takes to send 20 emails to 20 contacts. Even if you're sending those emails by templates, it takes time to load up a list, click through, select the right template for the right person, make adjustments if you need to, and send it before moving on to the next contact. So we've looked at a definition of workflow, which is basically what it takes to start and finish some work, right? I want to reframe the term workflow when it comes to using Blitz Sales Software. Instead of thinking of workflow as the work you're doing to complete a task, let's look at workflow as work you're not doing anymore. Automated workflow takes those steps out of your hands. When you automate your follow-up process, you are more able to spend your attention on your contacts, not your tasks. The goal here is to take work out of your hands so you can spend time developing relationships with your contacts. Time isn't the only thing automation saves you, too. You're also spending your attention on communication rather than task-oriented busy work. When we looked at emailing 20 people earlier, we had to consider the time it takes to open a lead, move to the email feature, use the drop-down, click send, and move on to the next lead. That's what, about 20 to 40 seconds per email? That's pretty fast, right? Especially if the phone isn't ringing and Jeff isn't talking about the movie he went to see last night. Yes, Jeff, I love the Marvel superhero movies too, but I need to send this email. Now, add the other factors in the workplace to your scenario. In the home office, the workplace, the coffee shop where you pay for the table by the cup, distractions happen. Most of us don't take a lot of distraction to lose our train of thought and have to reset and get back on task. Just being near your smartphone is a risk. Consider all the possible distractions in our little internet minute wheel here. Here's a distraction test. I put a very juicy infographic on the screen a minute ago. And now that it's covered up, how much have you heard me say about the distractions in the office, and how much have you been looking at the infographic? The idea I want to share here is that even when we're on point, automating workflow tasks is still going to beat the heck out of the time we take to perform those tasks on our own. Also, I hope at least some of you are grinning because you're like me and wander sometimes while listening to these kind of presentations. Because that kind of graph is candy for my brain, and I will devour it and not listen to what else is going on. Let's look at some of the steps automation can take care of on the next slide. So workflow takes away the manual work. It'll do emails, it'll do appointments, and it'll do some other fancy stuff too. But the bottom line is that workflow's job is to claim steps like these. If you're able to hand off the control for stuff like this, to take it out of your brain and let the computer do it, you're flying through the technical stuff on autopilot. Let's look at how one of our workflows works, and then we'll close out the presentation here. When you add workflow to your Blitz package, you open the world of automation to any contact you want to reach out to. But for idea's sake, consider some of these types. Automate how you treat each of these groups. You can set workflow up with different approaches to how to reach web leads, so you treat those to your ideal follow-up schedule. You can do the same for requotes and cross-sales. Do you have a specific thank you process to help introduce your newly sold customers to your business? That's awesome, because you can build a workflow specifically with that process in mind. So when you mark a contact as sold, workflow knows when to send specific emails, when to have your staff call, and even remind you to drop a postcard in the mail thanking them for their business. Let's take one of these workflow ideas and look at an example of how that will run on your Blitz account. First, workflow needs some people to target. We determine the target by figuring out our filters. That way, we know exactly who we're looking to reach. Then we make a plan of when we want to reach out and what we want to do to make contact. That's where the triggers and actions come in. Triggers are when we want to do work, and actions are the work items we let workflow take over. Filters, triggers, actions. Next up is combining the elements into a cohesive event. Here's a workflow that's targeting quoted contacts. The filters are telling us that this workflow was made to work quoted leads. That's the gray box. The triggers and actions in the yellow box tell us when the events in the workflow happen and what those events are. For example, the top trigger is when it has been 1 day since the lead reached its current milestone and the filter requirements are met, perform the following actions. The action says it's going to schedule schedule a follow-up task at 10 a.m. that day. Let's look at this idea without as much text. Imagine this setup represents another workflow. This calendar displays that this workflow was built to make phone call appointments and send out emails. So this is the kind of example I might build for someone who wants to work a new internet lead. We're staggering the calls and emails, and the only thing the person assigned to this lead is doing is calling on these days with phones. Of course, if the lead responds, these other future appointments will get wiped off the calendar because workflow is a smart system. If you update the contact correctly, meaning keep the status and milestone on Blitz up to date, workflow just kind of helps in the background. That means maybe when updating a lead, it'll move to a different workflow like the quoted one we looked at earlier. Or it could go through a requoting process where Blitz will remind you that the lead's X date is coming up. So you better call and grab that contact. Maybe the lead told you to take a long walk down a short pier, in which case you'd update the lead marking them not interested, so you know they're not in any workflows. The system takes the thinking and analyzing and reanalyzing out of the day-to-day by letting workflow do its thing and letting you react to events like this that show up on your calendar. It's really fantastic when you wrap your brain around it. I've been working with workflow for almost 4 years now, and I still get blown away by how intuitive and effective it is. In fact, one comment I would regularly get from our customers was when I was an account manager or an onboarding specialist was that I was really persistent. Like, man, you're calling me a lot. You're just really persistent. That was, in fact, not true. I'm not the persistent one. Workflow was, because it kept putting that person on my schedule to follow up with. So what are your next steps? I recommend getting on the Blitz Help Desk and watching the Workflow 101 and 102 videos. They go over the specifics of how a workflow works and how to build your own custom workflows if you want to go there. Blitz also has some default templates if you're interested in starting out with some established ideas and then adjusting those approaches over time. The info for starting workflow with those defaults is on the help desk too. Seriously, start with the Workflow 101 video and see where it takes you. Thanks for listening. There are tutorials for all this content on our help desk, which you can find through the big red help button on your Blitz account. And I'll be sending an email out to everyone who signed up with a little link to some of that information. Or maybe we're just going to put it on the blog post. We're kind of reworking a couple of things around here too. So we'll be making sure that information is in people's hands. Once I get the recorded video from today ready to go, we're going to host that on as well. Also, if anyone has questions about today's topics, punch those into the questions section, and I'll make sure to answer. You can submit questions or your favorite, let's say, favorite way to warm up, considering it's January and everyone's cold, or both, and I'll answer whatever you guys have, and we'll close the presentation afterward. Let's see. Got a comment in the questions section here. I think I already watched it, but I might go back. That is also a very good plan if you're looking for more ways to kind of adjust what your plan is and go from there. Got another question. Is workflow in all of the Blitz accounts? The workflow is part of the Professional Plus Blitz package. It is on the, I guess, the high level Blitz package. You may just have to check and see which package you're on. And if you're looking for how to figure out what package that is, tell you what, I'll pull up my Blitz account over here on the screen and I'll show you. Under the Administration tab, under Subscription Settings, that is going to be where you find out what's going on with which package you have. Are you on professional monthly? Or are you on professional plus? Plus is the one that has workflow available to you. So it's a little bit of a higher rate per month. It's a couple dollars per user, basically. And there's a one-time setup fee to get workflow plugged into your account and up and running. But it's one of those things that setup fee is good for the life of the account and letting you run. Let's see. Oh, I got a very flattering question about voiceover here. Thank you, Tyler. Coming from someone who does voiceover and MC work regularly, have you ever done that kind of work? Thank you for that compliment, Tyler. My day job is working for AA Solutions, but my night job is I am attempting to be a voice actor in the world of cartoons and animation and video games. And so I think some of those skills are kind of bleeding between those jobs. I'm one of our remote employees here in Dallas. And no, you would not know any characters because the anime work that I have done has been quite small. And while a few of my characters have names, not many of them are very recognizable. But thank you. That's very kind. And it looks like we're kind of running out of info on the Blitz side for questions. So I think we're going to call that for today. No, David, I'm sorry. I think that one's going to be an off-topic question we'll have to do off the air. Thank you, though. All right, everybody, thanks so much for coming out to the Blitz webinar this month. We'll be talking to you again real soon, I'm sure, looking at some potentially new ways to deliver our info and get these webinars revamped and upgraded just a little bit in 2019. We'll see how it goes. We've got some decisions to make in-house, but we're looking forward to working with everybody in the new year. Have a beautiful day.